The Galactic Tribunal chamber shimmered with cold silver walls that pulsed like a living machine, each surface reflecting the stares of countless alien species gathered in judgment. David Hale, shackled and on his knees, felt the weight of entire civilizations pressing down upon his chest. The judges, towering beings of radiant cruelty, spoke in unison, their words sharp as blades. Humanity is guilty of crimes beyond redemption. Its sentence is extinction. The silence that followed seemed to choke him, each breath more painful than the last. Billions across the galaxy watched the broadcast, their voices hushed, their eyes fixed on the trembling figure. David whispered to himself, "They will not kneel us into dust." And then, from the shadows beyond the glare of the court, a voice unseen but heavy with sorrow spoke. "They're not just judging you, David. They're judging us all." The chamber air felt heavier than stone, as David Hale raised his head. His lips quivered, yet he refused to beg. The alien judge's words echoed, "Humanity will not endure another cycle." A reptilian observer hissed in agreement, while others smirked at the sight of his trembling form. David said, "If this is justice, then you've killed it." The silence that followed pressed down like a blade. Holographic screens displayed Earth's oceans boiling and forests burning, twisted into an endless loop of horror. The alien voices did not soften, their tones cutting like iron. "Your kind is chaos, a plague upon the stars." His heart pounded, but he whispered to himself, "A plague still survives." David Hale's mind drifted to faces lost. The weight of family gone, comrades betrayed, echoed within him as chains clinked each time he shifted. He could almost hear his daughter's laughter, a sound torn away by war. The alien judge leaned forward, glowing eyes narrowing, and spoke with venom. "Even your children carry violence in their blood." David clenched his fists until metal bit his skin. He whispered, "They carried hope, not war." For a fleeting second, silence passed through the chamber, as if the memory itself carried power. But then came laughter from the human collaborators seated among the aliens. "You speak of hope? Humanity is born of ruin." The chamber lights dimmed as the tribunal projected humanity's wars, each battle scene replayed in grotesque scale. Starships burning, cities collapsing, children screaming as fire consumed the earth. David Hale forced himself to watch, each breath tearing into him like glass. The crystalline judge said, "This is your legacy, endless fire." David whispered, "No, this is our wound, not our identity." His voice wavered, but did not break. Murmurs stirred among the alien gallery, some with faint hesitation in their eyes, others sneering. The collaborator leaned closer to a judge and said, "Do not listen to his defiance. He cannot speak for a species drowning in blood." Chains rattled as David Hale forced himself upright on his knees, breath ragged but his spine unbent. The crystalline judge's voice thundered, "Humanity has been weighed and found wanting." David met their gaze, defiance blazing. "We are not perfect, but we endure." His words echoed louder than he expected, reverberating across the chamber. The reptilian alien in the gallery snarled, but a softer voice spoke from the shadows, belonging to a silent ally unseen until now. "Every empire forgets its sins." For a moment, the chamber froze, billions of eyes watching. David whispered to himself, "Then they will remember ours differently." David Hale sat in the silence of his cell, the metallic walls humming faintly with energy. He closed his eyes and saw the faces of those he had lost. A child's laughter echoed in memory, cut short by war. His heart clenched with pain, sharper than chains. He whispered, "They burned my world, but not what lives inside me." Shadows moved on the wall, as if listening. His scarred hands tightened around the cold steel floor. The tribunal had branded him broken, but inside he carried fire. He remembered a comrade's betrayal, the look of false loyalty twisted into a knife. The memory weighed like stone, yet it hardened his resolve. The cold floor beneath him echoed with faint vibrations, carrying whispers of the galaxy outside. David breathed slowly, recalling his daughter's small hand gripping his, warmth now lost forever. He muttered, She believed the stars would be ours. A tear slipped down his cheek, vanishing in the dirt. His body trembled, but his spirit refused to collapse. The silence of the cell became a stage for ghosts. His mind replayed moments of betrayal, comrades abandoning their oath for power, faces he once trusted now cloaked in alien approval. Each scar on his body whispered stories of loss, yet also of survival. The cell door hissed open, spilling white light across the shadows. A human figure stepped inside, a collaborator draped in polished uniform, eyes gleaming with false authority. Thomas Vey, once a commander, now wore betrayal-like armor. He said, "You carry scars, David, but scars are not strength. They are weakness." David raised his head slowly, chains clinking. "No, scars are proof I endured what tried to kill me." Vey sneered, "Endurance means nothing when an entire species falls." The chamber hummed with tension, as memory and betrayal collided in one suffocating breath. Vey stepped closer, boots clicking on the steel floor. He said, "You believe your suffering makes you human. The tribunal sees only your crimes." David's breath hitched, yet his voice sharpened. "Pain teaches us what justice never could." Vey leaned down, his face inches away, whispering with venom, "You will die, and humanity will vanish, but I will survive." David closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them with fire. Survival without honor is a slower death. The silence between them stretched like a blade. The cell door sealed with a hiss as Vey left, his footsteps fading into silence. David slumped back against the wall, chest rising in ragged rhythm. He whispered, "They mistake pain for weakness." His eyes lifted to the faint glow on the ceiling, where stars flickered like distant memories. A voice, soft and unfamiliar, drifted from the shadows of the cell. It was Seraphine, the silent ally. She said, "You are not weakness. You are memory made flesh." Her luminous eyes glowed faintly in the dark. For the first time, David did not feel alone. The tribunal chamber roared to life as evidence poured across towering holograms. Battles, massacres, and firestorms painted humanity as a plague. Alien judges sat unmoved, their crystalline faces shining with cruel satisfaction. David Hale lifted his head, chains clinking, his voice straining against the storm. "These visions are not truth. They are fragments twisted into lies." The audience murmured, reptilian hisses and insectoid clicks filling the chamber. A crystalline judge intoned, "The crimes stand undeniable." David's fists clenched, his voice breaking into raw defiance. "You fear us, so you forge our guilt." Silence followed, thick as ash, before the gavel of judgment struck. Thomas Vey stepped forward into the chamber, his polished boots clicking against the metallic floor. The collaborator raised his chin proudly, his military uniform gleaming. He declared, "Humanity's crimes cannot be excused. I have lived them. I have seen their chaos." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the gallery. David's eyes locked on Vey, his voice cutting through the noise. "You saw their hope too, but you buried it for power." Vey smirked, his words dripping venom. "Hope dies where survival begins. I chose survival." The crystalline judge's silver eyes glowed brighter, feeding on betrayal like fuel. The chamber's walls pulsed with energy as new evidence flickered across the air. Images of children crying, soldiers burning cities, humans slaughtering humans. David stared, throat tight, knowing many were real, but many were twisted. He shouted, "Not all of these are ours." The audience hissed, voices like a storm. An insectoid judge leaned forward, mandibles clicking. "Every species bears scars, yet none scorch the stars as yours." David trembled but did not kneel lower. "You blind yourselves to the truth. Fear guides your hand, not justice." The holograms glowed brighter, drowning the chamber in crimson. The silent ally, Seraphine, rose slowly in the gallery. Her luminous skin glowed faintly as she spoke, her voice soft yet piercing. "The crimes you display are wounds, not verdicts. To erase them is not justice, it is fear." The chamber froze, whispers rippling like waves across billions of viewers. A crystalline judge thundered, "You dare defend the condemned?" Seraphine lowered her head, her sorrowful eyes unyielding. "I see my people suffering in theirs. Condemnation is too easy." David's gaze met hers, and for the first time he felt the weight of compassion among the stars. The chamber's silence shattered when the hidden architect's voice echoed unseen. Shadows thickened along the walls, a distorted silhouette flickering between forms. The voice hissed, "Justice is a mask. Fear is the truth." The judge's crystalline eyes flickered uneasily, yet no one spoke against it. David shivered, his chains rattling as the truth sank in. This trial was not judgment, it was orchestration. He whispered, "We were doomed before the verdict was spoken." The audience shifted in growing unease, but the architect's shadow lingered, vast and oppressive, like a storm before breaking. The next day dawned not with execution, but with cruel spectacle. David Hale was dragged into a vast arena carved from black stone, its walls humming with alien machinery. Chains clattered as he was forced to his knees, the eyes of billions projected above like suns. Crystalline Judge declared, "You will prove your species through ordeal, or be erased." Holograms ignited, displaying trials of fire, pain, and humiliation. David's body trembled, yet his voice rasped, "I will not break." The audience roared with both scorn and fascination. Somewhere in the shadows, the hidden architect whispered, "Endure, and you will learn what they fear." Steel pillars rose from the arena floor, their surfaces covered in burning plasma. Guards unshackled David, shoving him forward. The task was clear: walk the gauntlet of fire while the galaxy watched. His legs quivered, but did not falter. The reptilian crowd hissed in delight, expecting collapse. David stumbled, plasma licking his skin, pain ripping through him like knives. He screamed but pressed forward, whispering through clenched teeth, "Not for me, for all of us." The judge's silver eyes gleamed, waiting for his fall. Seraphine lowered her gaze, sorrow shimmering in her luminous eyes. At the gauntlet's end, David collapsed, body smoking, chest heaving with shallow breaths. Crystalline Judge's voice rang out, "See how weakness defines them." Thomas Vey stepped forward, uniform polished, his smirk cold. He said, "You see now, humanity breaks." David's head rose weakly, voice ragged but fierce. "I endured." Vey leaned closer, whispering so only David heard, "Endurance is nothing. I sold your species long before this trial began." David's blood chilled, realization striking deeper than wounds. Betrayal wore a human face, and it smiled. The revelation burned like acid in David's chest. He whispered, "You betrayed us." Vey's eyes glimmered with cruel certainty. "I saved myself. Humanity was doomed long before this trial." David forced himself upright, trembling, each movement agony. He spat blood and said, "No, you surrendered your soul." The audience stirred, divided between fascination and scorn. The hidden architect's voice echoed again, deep and merciless, "Fear is the truth," and fear demanded betrayal. David's eyes widened as he realized the architect had guided Vey all along. The crowd roared as David stood defiant despite his wounds, his chest heaving with fire. Seraphine's soft voice cut through the noise. "They fear you not for crimes, but for your will to rise." The crystalline judge slammed their staff, voice booming, "Endurance is not innocence." David raised his head, whispering loud enough for billions to hear, "Endurance is proof of life." His words rippled through the audience, doubt spreading like cracks in glass. The architect's shadow writhed with unease, its voice echoing, "You will not survive tomorrow." David whispered back, "Then tomorrow fears me." The chamber burned with restless energy as David Hale was dragged back before the judges, body battered yet unbroken. His chains rattled, but his eyes no longer lowered. The crystalline judge thundered, "You are a relic of chaos." David inhaled sharply, then spoke with a voice raw but steady, "I am not relic. I am witness." Images of Earth's wars flickered again, but he raised his voice over them. We are more than fire. We are those who carried children through storms, who buried their dead and still rose again. The chamber fell into a hush, the galaxy listening to a single human breath. The reptilian faction snarled from the gallery, scales flashing under the harsh glow. One hissed, "You bury the galaxy in your blood." David turned his gaze toward them, his chains clinking softly. "Yes, we bleed, but it is blood that waters hope." The words struck like fire, and murmurs rippled through the audience. Seraphine's luminous eyes glistened with silent approval. Thomas Vey stepped forward, shouting, "Do not listen!" He cloaked savagery with words. David's voice cut across him, trembling with fury. "You cloak fear with betrayal." The crowd roared, torn between anger and doubt. The crystalline judge raised their staff, voice booming, "You seek mercy." David shook his head, blood dripping down his chin. "No, I seek recognition." His words echoed into silence. The holograms shifted, now showing not only war, but also images of human sacrifice. Soldiers shielding children, mothers cradling infants beneath fire. The crowd stirred, unsettled. David's chest heaved as he spoke. "We are not asking to be spared. We are demanding to be seen." For a moment, even the judges faltered, silver eyes flickering. The galaxy wavered between hatred and something dangerously close to respect. From the shadows, the hidden architect's distorted form writhed, its voice carrying venom. "Recognition will not save you. Fear is eternal." David turned toward the looming silhouette, voice hoarse but unshaken. "Fear is why you conspired against us. Not because we are weak, but because we rise." The architect hissed, its shifting shape flickering violently. At that moment, a young innocent was dragged into view, altered by alien hands. Her trembling voice cried, "David!" His heart wrenched, eyes burning with rage. He screamed, "You dare use her!" The crowd gasped, the galaxy watching as innocence stood on trial beside him. The innocent cried out, as a blade of energy was raised against her. Seraphine stepped forward from the gallery, robes flowing, luminous eyes blazing. "Enough!" she shouted, her voice ringing through the chamber. She leapt before the innocent, shielding her as the blade struck, her body dissolving into radiant light. David's chains rattled violently as he screamed her name, his voice shattering silence. The chamber erupted with chaos, factions rioting, judges shouting. David's voice rose above it all. "We will not kneel. We will endure." His words burned into billions of minds like fire. The climax had ignited the galaxy. The tribunal's gavel struck, silver light flashing through the chamber. The crystalline judge's voice rang. Humanity's verdict is extermination. David Hale's body stiffened as chains pulled him forward. The audience erupted, some cheering, others screaming in protest. Reptilian factions hissed for blood, while softer alien voices cried for mercy. David stumbled, his knees scraping stone, but his eyes never lowered. He whispered through cracked lips, "Not judgment, fear." The hidden architect's shadow writhed across the walls, its laughter echoing. The end was sealed before the first word. Yet chaos surged, factions colliding like storms in the gallery. Guards dragged David toward a glowing execution platform, its energy blades humming like thunder. Billions across the galaxy watched, their faces projected above in ghostly hologram. His chest heaved, but his spirit burned brighter than flame. He shouted, "You fear us, because you see yourselves in us." The chamber shook with uproar, reptilian voices shrieking, insectoid limbs clattering. Seraphine's sacrifice still lingered, her light echoing in silence. The innocent cried out, "Stop!" Her trembling voice carried across galaxies, piercing even the cold eyes of the judges. For one fragile moment, silence held its breath. The crystalline judge raised their staff, ready to deliver the final order. David's voice surged again, ragged but thunderous. "You cannot erase us, you cannot bury us, because we are already inside you." Murmurs erupted, spreading like wildfire across the gallery. Doubt flickered in silver eyes, hesitation cracking their polished cruelty. Thomas Vey stepped forward, face twisted in rage. End him now, before their poison spreads. But the factions clashed, alien voices shouted over one another, guards faltered, and the chamber drowned in discord. David's words had set the galaxy ablaze. The hidden architect's voice slithered through the chamber, furious. Your words cannot unmake destiny. Its shadow stretched high, writhing across walls and ceiling. David raised his head, whispering hoarsely, Destiny is not yours to chain. The innocent stepped forward, tears streaking her altered face, voice breaking but strong. They are not a plague. They are hope. The crowd gasped, billions watching as innocence defied judgment. Alien factions erupted into violence, shouts, hisses, wings beating. Guards hesitated, their loyalty fracturing. The trial's mask of order shattered into raw chaos. David was shoved to the platform as riots exploded across the chamber. His chest heaved, chains rattling as he shouted above the storm. We are already in your fear, in your memory, in the fire you cannot put out. His voice cut through steel and shadow, searing itself into every mind. The crystalline judge slammed their staff, but no order silenced the chaos. The architect's shadow recoiled, its laughter breaking into static. The innocent sobbed, clutching her chest as light flickered in her altered eyes. David whispered one last time, humanity will endure. The galaxy trembled on the edge of change. The chamber smoldered with smoke and chaos, alien voices clashing like storms. David Hale staggered, bloodied but unbroken, his chains dragging sparks against the floor. The crystalline judge's voice cracked like thunder. The trial is finished. Humanity will live, but under watch. Gasps filled the gallery, some with outrage, others with relief. David's chest heaved as the words sank in. Not victory, not freedom, but survival. He whispered, "We will carry the scars." The innocent's trembling hand reached for him, her altered eyes glowing faintly. Billions across the galaxy stared, silent, as history bent beneath the weight of endurance. Guards released David's chains with a hiss, the steel falling heavy against the stone floor. His wrists bled, but his spirit held steady. The innocent whispered, "They wanted your death." David met her gaze, voice hoarse but firm. "Then, let them remember our survival." Alien holograms flickered above, billions of eyes fixated on the fragile human figure who refused to kneel. Thomas Vey scowled from the shadows, his betrayal exposed, his power crumbling. The hidden architect's shadow writhed faintly on the wall, diminished but unbroken. David turned, every movement slow and deliberate, to face the galaxy watching him. The tribunal chambers, lights dimmed as silence thickened. David spoke, his voice weary yet sharp. "We are not victors. We are witnesses. Our survival is not mercy. It is a warning." The words echoed like stone, dropped into endless water. Some aliens bowed their heads in reluctant acknowledgement. Others turned away in fury. The crystalline judge's silver eyes narrowed, unblinking, but no further words followed. The innocent clutched her chest, eyes glistening with tears. David turned his face upward, scarred features lit by fractured light, his voice a final echo for all to hear. David stepped from the tribunal floor, unchained but not free. His body leaned heavy with exhaustion, each step echoing like thunder in the silence. The innocent walked at his side, trembling yet unbroken. Alien factions muttered, their eyes locked on the fragile human form that bore their fear. David whispered to himself, "Every step is a defiance." The hidden architect's shadow lingered faintly at the chamber's edge, its distorted form whispering, "This is not the end." David's gaze hardened, eyes burning like embers. "No," he answered quietly, "it is only the beginning." Outside the chamber, the galaxy stood in stunned silence. Billions of projections hovered above cities and skies across countless worlds, all fixed on the lone human who had endured judgment. David Hale stopped at the threshold, his eyes heavy but unyielding. He whispered. They wanted a verdict. What they got was a warning. The words rippled across the stars, burned into the minds of every watcher. The innocent clutched his arm, and together they stepped into an uncertain future. David's silhouette faded into the light, scarred yet defiant, carrying humanity's flame where none was meant to exist.